How did I get here? What have I done? And why? I must have forgot my medicine. I've got a condition.
The movie opens straight into a traffic collision, where Marv's just been thrown from the vehicle, but he has no idea who's this guy next to him and can't even remember how he got there himself. After taking his medication, Marv looks out over the city he calls home and begins to recall the events prior. Nancy was working since it's Saturday, but for some reason Marv remembers sitting outside, so we'll get back to her. He begins to smell burning hair when a screaming man rounds the corner on fire. 4 American psychotypes are dousing another poor fellow with gasoline and shoots Marv when he approaches, but unfazed by the flesh wound, the no-gooders get frightened and run away. In pursuit, Marv jumps on the side of their vehicle, but they swipe a passing police car to get him off, so he smashes through the windscreen and hijacks it. After running the car off the road, he crushes the 2 that flung out under his heel and blows the wreckage up, where we're now all caught up. Marv follows the remaining 2 into the projects, but they get the drop on him. Having grown up there, Marv signals to the locals to help him, and they fill the rich kids with arrows. He signals to the off-screen locals to hang the first, then signals for a knife where he slits the second's throat. Nearby, the always lucky Johnny's looking to make some big bucks out of Sin City. He goes to Katie's bar, where like always Nancy's dancing and putting the rest of the employees to shame. Johnny's approached by a dancer named Marcy, and he lures her over to a slot machine with a coin. He tells her to blow on it and instantly hits the jackpot. Then after she kisses the next and he does it again, he takes Marcy to the back room to play poker with Senator Rourke, a crooked politician who plays with extremely high stakes. After impressing the room with his shuffling skills, Johnny eventually clears the table of all other players. With a royal flush, he takes Rourke for everything and leaves with Marcy, being told by Officer Leibowitz to leave town as the police can't protect him from the senator. Throughout the whole game, Nancy's shown contemplating shooting Rourke through a hole in the wall. She hates the senator for killing her former protector Hartigan, who she's now haunted by and sees everywhere. Everyone just thinks it's just part of the show when she pulls a gun on Rourke, but she's been practicing to kill him for weeks, but can never bring herself to pull the trigger out of fear. Marcy gets taken for a night on the town when they begin to get followed by 2 of the senator's goons, so Johnny disarms one and gives them both a hiding while the golden girl waits on him. Just then a limousine pulls up, so Johnny gives Marcy the address to his apartment and gets in the back seat with Rourke. One of the goons smacks him in the face, and the senator gives him pliers to begin breaking Johnny's fingers, turning it into a pretzel of flesh. The goons throw him from the limo, and the senator exits to shoot Johnny in the leg, telling him that he will have a limp now forever. Rourke reveals that he knows Johnny's his son, but doesn't give a crap and walks away, leaving Johnny to vow revenge on his father. After his brutal beatdown, Johnny visits a cheap alleyway doctor to have his injuries treated. Dr. Kronig's a bit of a weirdo, but he gets the bullet out of his leg for only $40, and fixes his hand with splints made from ice cream sticks that he sucks dry in front of him, in exchange for his shoes. When Johnny gets home, he finds Rourke waiting for him, having already killed Marcy and chopped her body up. The senator mocks him and has his henchmen pull their guns to scare Johnny away, deciding to let him live in further torment. With Marcy's murder just adding more fuel to the fire, he goes to a diner and meets the sweet waitress Boothe. Feeling sorry for the handsome stranger, she gives him $1, telling him it's not much, but he takes it straight to Katie's bar and turns it into thousands on the slots, where he briefly meets Marv. Walking straight into the back room and requesting a rematch with Rourke, he sits down and gets ridiculed for not having his card hand, when he begins shuffling and dealing with his left, being that he's ambidextrous. After a few hands, Johnny folds even though he would have won. Rourke begins to taunt him about his mother being just some street trash, so the kid decides to go all in. Rourke reveals 4 kings, still not comprehending that it's impossible for Johnny to lose, as he reveals his own 4 of a kind aces over kings. Johnny's got the revenge he wanted, saying that stories about this will get around the town, and in this way Johnny keeps beating him forever through word of mouth. So the sore loser ends this chapter by shooting his own crying son in the forehead. Elsewhere in this cesspool of a city, a man named Dwight's been hired to take pictures of a creep who's fooling around behind his wife's back. Joey contemplates breaking things off with Sally as he suspects his wife's onto him, but he's not hard to convince otherwise. After doing the nasty while she's still handcuffed to the bed, Joey takes his gun out and is about to kill Sally to keep her from talking. So Dwight drops through the skylight and lands on top of him before beating him unconscious. He leaves with the natural redhead and takes her back to Old Town, where she blends back into the sea of flesh. After collecting his payment from Joey's heartbroken wife's lawyer, Dwight takes his Mustang at high speed down a mountain road and pulls over briefly when he feels a sense of rage overcoming him. The moment he's home, the phone rings and a familiar voice tells him to meet her at Katie's bar, where like all good nights Nancy's on stage doing her thing. Dwight meets his ex-lover Ava, who he wants nothing to do with, but she begs him for forgiveness and breaks him down, hypnotizing him with a kiss. She asks for protection against her abusive husband, when the gigantic personal bodyguard Manute enters, having come to take Ava back for him. Since Nancy's on stage, Marv's obviously in the house, and offers to help Dwight with his big problem, but he says it isn't his fight. Agreeing to go with Manute to avoid any conflicts, Ava leaves as Marv refers to her as a dame to kill for. Dwight follows them and watches her swimming from a rooftop, seeing that she seems perfectly fine. He slips and falls, getting himself captured by Manute's men, and when Ava approaches, she just tells him sorry before leaving him to have his nuts kicked and his head punched in, then be thrown onto the street from a moving car, where he finds himself right outside his own apartment, with his Mustang returned. Inside, he finds Ava waiting for him in her birthday suit and asking to be punished, so he smacks her upside the head, which she seems to very much enjoy. After doing the deed, Ava tells Dwight that her husband beats her and that Manute always finds her whenever she runs away, just like now as he emerges from the shadows to take her back home. Dwight's punches bounce off Manute like grapes, while the powerhouse punches him so hard it sends him straight out the window. With no other choice and desperate to rescue her, Dwight goes back to Katie's to ask for assistance and for the obvious Nancy fix on the side. He tells Marv the whole story over a few rounds, knowing that the brute can't resist a good fight, especially to protect a pretty lady. The two drive to Ava's home, and when the guards step to him, Marv easily eliminates the entire squad. Manute puts down his gun to fight the worthy challenger in fisticuffs, where the two brutes beat each other back and forth until Marv tackles the big boy through a window and knocks Manute out cold, then plucks his eye out as Dwight told him not to kill anyone. Entering the house to confront Ava's husband Damien, he slowly pulls a gun, so Dwight disarms him and crushes his throat, then letting the anger take over, he accidentally beats him to death. Ava then reveals herself to have set her ex-lover up to murder an innocent man and draws a gun. She begins shooting Dwight, but is a terrible shot and just manages to knock him out of the window into the courtyard, right next to Marv, who grabs him and skedaddles. With Dwight's eyeball now protruding from his skull, the two head for where they know the cops won't follow. They make it into Old Town, where the cops all back off save for one, but sure enough, the girls who own the town ambush the rookie and blow his cruiser up with a flamethrower. The women confront the men when the group leader Gail approaches, guns drawn, but recognizes Dwight and orders her girls to attend to him as he collapses. When he wakes up, he's welcomed by an angry ex-girlfriend who's mad at him for leaving her previously. The twins Goldie and Wendy think they should just kill Dwight and be done with him, and have Miho stick her sword in his back and twist it a little, but Gail warns them against it and tells Miho that it was Dwight who saved her from two thugs years ago, so she puts down the sword. Ava's questioned at her home by Officer Mort and his partner Bob about the attack. She throws herself at Mort, pretending to be devastated over her husband's death and claiming Dwight to be at fault. Mort goes home to his wife, but during the night he succumbs to temptation and calls Ava, who's already waiting for the call and putting on the damsel persona. He returns to her place and begins to have an affair with the succubus, during which she claims to be terrified that Dwight will return. She isn't wrong, as he calls her during one of her escapades, threatening her, so Ava begins to berate Mort for not doing his job and tells him to kill Dwight instead. While on duty, Bob tells him to call the whole thing off, when the love-struck idiot, having been driven crazy by Ava, shoots him in the eye. He throws his body over a cliff and, knowing there's no escaping for him, puts a bullet in his own head. After this, Ava meets with a mobster named Wallenquis, who calls her blunder with Mort an amateur mistake. She conspires to have a specialist brought in to kill Dwight, while Gail's shown to be spying on their conversation. After getting facial reconstruction surgery, Dwight shows up pretending to be the specialist and is met by Manute, who follows him and Gail back to Ava's home. As soon as they enter, Manute admits that he recognizes Dwight, because why wouldn't you? He's brought to Ava, who's dressed in preparation to seduce Dwight once again, claiming that the two of them could take over the city together, but Dwight's beyond her womanly ways. Gail begins to use her own moves to attract a guard over to her vehicle, where Miho's hiding in the trunk, and springs out to kill him. She hurls an explosive into the courtyard, interrupting Ava and sending shards of glass across her face. Miho takes off across the rooftop with her sword, killing the guards and switching to her bow for the range. Dwight produces a hidden six-shooter and fills Manute full of bullets, but it doesn't kill him, so he begins slipping the bullets coming his own way and kicks him into the pool. Ava rises with a pistol of her own pointed at Dwight, but she uses it on Manute, putting him down for good. She really is madly in love with Dwight above all others and kisses him for the last time, as he shoots the crazy witch dead and rejoins his warrior women. In the final story of the film, Nancy visits the grave of her friend Hartigan, and is photographed by Leibowitz, who brings the images to his boss Rourke. Hartigan killed Rourke's son to protect Nancy, but the senator doesn't want to kill her, instead wants to leave her to wallow in misery, knowing that he died because of her. She's continually haunted by Hartigan's ghost, who tells her that he's never going to leave her. That night, Nancy goes to bed and has a nightmare that Rourke's in her room threatening to kill her, and she spends the night in the fetal position. The next night at Katie's bar, Nancy goes out and puts on the show of a lifetime when Marv's shown to have made a friend. As she begins to turn the heat up planning on making this her last night on stage, Weevil remarks at how amazing it is, but Marv gets up and leaves knowing that something's wrong with Nancy due to how vulgar she's getting. After performing, Nancy goes backstage and smashes her head into the mirror before cutting her face up with some broken glass. When Marv gets back, he assumes someone's done it to her and tells her to give him a name, so the two head to Senator Rourke's to get with the killing. Outside the bar, 3 men approach saying they've come to shoot up the place, so Marv, being a regular, disarms them and shoots all 3, with Nancy finishing off the leader. She takes their crossbow and bikes and the two ride over to Rourke's estate. Spotting the senator inside, Marv uses a bike to break down a fence and the shotties to slaughter his way through all the guards right up to the front doors. He breaks his way inside and even pops a man's skull with his bare hands. Outside, Nancy cleans up any remaining guards with her crossbow that sends men flying into the air. She sees Marv closing in on Rourke's location and makes her way in past the carnage to meet him. After killing all but 1 man who Nancy finishes off, Marv's gun jammed and he was wounded, so Nance lets him sit this one out. She sees Rourke and fires at him, but it's just a reflection and she gets shot by the real thing. The senator then taunts her and shoots Nancy in the leg before giving a toast to his dead yellow son. Before Rourke can deliver the final shot, he's distracted by Hartigan's reflection, showing that maybe Nancy wasn't so crazy, as she grabs her gun and shoots him in the shoulder, bringing him to a kneel. After telling him that this bullet's for Hartigan, Nancy blows Rourke away, finally getting hers and many other people's revenge. And the movie ends.
Sin City's where you go in with your eyes open, or you don't come out at all.
So you made it. I appreciate your time. I couldn't have done it without you. Tell your mother I said thanks.